The voice on the other end of the phone was mine. It wasn't an impression. It wasn't an echo. It was my exact voice, down to the slight rasp I get when I'm tired, and it said, "I'm right outside. Let me in." My name is Leo, and in the fall of 2022, I was the night shift clerk at a lone gas station just off Interstate 10, near the town of Benson, Arizona. The place was called Crossroads Fuels and Convenience. It was one of those old, boxy buildings with faded Pepsi logos on the windows and a sign that flickered like a distressed heartbeat. The job was simple, mind-numbing even. Stock the coolers, run the register, mop the floor at 3 a.m. when no one was around. The profound isolation was the point. I was a grad student and the silence was good for reading, or so I thought. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The real quiet didn't start until after midnight, when the last of the truckers had grabbed their coffee and boiled peanuts and vanished back into the darkness. After that, it was just me, the hum of the old freezer units, and the occasional scuttling of a lizard or a pack rat outside. The desert at night is a black ocean, and the station was my little brightly lit boat drift. The first oddity was small, easy to dismiss. It was a Tuesday, or maybe a Wednesday. The days bled together. A little past 1 a.m., a beat-up black Ford Taurus pulled up to the far pump. No one got out. I could just make out a single figure behind the wheel, silhouetted against the glow of the pump's display. I waited, expecting them to come in and prepay. They never did. After 10 minutes, the car just started up and pulled away, driving off not toward the interstate, but down the old frontage road that led deeper into the desert. I remember shrugging it off. Weird, but not scary, just someone who changed their mind. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same car at the same pump, same 10-minute wait, same departure down the frontage road. This time, a low chill went through me. It felt less like a coincidence and more like a routine. Their routine. The third night, I was on edge. I kept staring out the window at that far pump. 1:05 a.m. Right on schedule, the headlights cut through the dark. The black Taurus rolled to a stop. My heart started hammering. This time, the driver's door opened. A man got out. He was average height, wearing a dark jacket despite the residual heat, and a baseball cap pulled low. He didn't go to the pump. He walked straight toward the doors. Pace quickened slightly. The bell chimed as he entered. He didn't look at me. He beelined for the back coolers, his shoes squeaking on the linoleum. I watched him on the security monitor, my hand tight around my highlighter. He stood in front of the glass doors for a long time, not moving, just staring at the rows of Gatorade and bottled water. Finally, he grabbed a single, small bottle of water and came to the counter. He placed the water on the counter. He still wouldn't look up at me. His cap was pulled too far down, shadowing his entire face. "Find everything all right?" I asked, my voice sounding ridiculously loud and cheerful in the empty store. He just nodded. I rang up the water. "That'll be $2.30. He handed me exact change. His fingers were cold, and for a split second, they brushed against my palm. I jerked my hand back. He finally looked up. His eyes were the thing I remember most. They weren't menacing or crazy. They were just empty, like two pools of still black water. He held my gaze for a moment too long, a flat, emotionless stare. Then he gave a small, tight smile that didn't reach those eyes. "Quiet night," he said. His voice was flat, monotone. "Yeah, usually is," I managed to reply. He picked up his water. "I'll be seeing you, Leo." And he turned and walked out. The door chimed behind him. I stood there, frozen. My name tag. He'd read my name tag. That's all it was. But the way he said it, it felt like he already knew. I watched him get in his car and drive away once again down the dark frontage road. The next hour was agony. Every creak of the building settling, every hum of the compressor made me jump. Then the phone rang, the landline behind the counter. It was so rare for it to ring that the sound was like a physical shock. I picked it up. Crossroads Fuels. Nothing, just dead air, and then the faint sound of breathing. "Hello?" The breathing continued, steady and calm. Then a click. The line went dead. My skin was crawling. I locked the front door. I decided no one else was coming in tonight. I could just run the register through the night window if I had to. I went into the back stock room. trying to calm down, telling myself I was being paranoid. The stockroom was pitch black, and I fumbled for the light switch. My hand brushed against the wall, and I felt something. I flicked the light on. Etched into the soft drywall, right next to the light switch, were two words, carved with something sharp, like a key or a knife. The carving was fresh. I could see the tiny flakes of paint still dusting the floor beneath it. Still here. I stumbled back into the main store, my breath catching in my throat. I grabbed the phone to call the police. It was dead. Not a dial tone, just a hollow, empty silence. I pulled out my cell phone. No service, 0 bars, which was impossible. I always had at least 1 bar out here. The landline rang again. I stared at it. It shrilled through the silent station, a sound of pure menace. It rang again and again. I knew with a cold certainty that it was for me. I had to answer it. I picked up the receiver. I didn't speak. The breathing was there again, but this time it was different. It was synchronized. It was matching my own panicked, ragged breaths exactly. In, out, in, out. Then the voice came. It was a whisper, but it was clear, and it was my voice. Leo, it said. It was my voice, my exact inflection. Why did you lock the door? It's cold out here. I couldn't make a sound. My jaw was locked shut. I'm lonely out here, Leo, my voice continued. Let me in. We can keep each other company. My eyes snapped toward the sound. It was coming from the night window, the small, sliding plexiglass window used for after-hours sales. There was a finger there, tapping a quarter against the glass. I was paralyzed. The phone was still pressed to my ear, the sound of my own breathing echoing back at me from the receiver. I see you, my voice whispered in my ear. You look scared. The tapping stopped. The finger uncurled and pointed slowly toward the front door. I followed its direction. Standing outside the locked front door was the man in the baseball cap. He was just standing there, his head tilted. His face was still in shadow, and in his other hand, held up to his own ear, was a cheap, disposable cell phone. He was the source of the call. He lowered his phone. I could see his mouth move, and my own voice, now slightly distorted and tinny through the phone line, said the words a half second later. I told you I'd be seeing you. I don't know how long I stood there after the pounding stopped. The line was dead. He was gone. The police came when I finally managed to get a bar of service. They found nothing. No car, no footprints, no fingerprints on the outside of the window. The carving in the stockroom? They said it looked old. They implied I'd probably just never noticed it before. A product of stress and isolation. I quit the next day. I moved back to Tucson. I got a day job in a brightly lit coffee shop with huge windows and lots of people. But the fear never left. It changed me. I don't answer unknown numbers. I startle easy. And sometimes when my phone rings late at night, I'll check the caller ID with a trembling hand. And for that first second, I'm terrified I'll see my own name staring back at me. The police closed the case. They said there was no crime, just a creepy guy and an overactive imagination. They're probably right. But a few weeks ago, I got a letter, no return address, postmarked from a town just east of Benson. Inside was a single, glossy photograph. It was a picture of me, taken through the window of the coffee shop where I work now. I'm smiling, handing a customer their latte. And written on the back of the photo, in neat block letters, were the same 2 words from the stockroom wall. Still here. The security camera footage from that night showed me standing alone at the register for 6 straight hours, talking to myself, laughing, arguing with no one. But I swear, I wasn't alone. She was right there in front of me. My name is Sam, and back in the spring of 2019, I managed a lonely Conoco station off Highway 83 in North Dakota, about 20 miles south of Minot. It was the kind of place you'd blow right past on the map. Flat fields in every direction, nothing but wheat and sky. The night shift was a trade-off, mind-crushing boredom in exchange for total solitude and plenty of time to study. I was taking online courses for my certs, and the silence was usually golden. The routine was sacred. I'd get there at 10, do the till count with the day manager, and then I was alone until sunrise. The sounds were my soundtrack. The hum of the coolers, the gurgle of the coffee makers, the occasional hiss of a car on the wet highway. I knew every crack in the linoleum, every flicker in the light above pump number 4. The first thing that felt off was the coffee. I'd closed up the brew station around 2 a.m., like always, washing out the pots and turning off the warmers. But when I came out from the stockroom an hour later, a fresh, steaming pot was brewing. The rich, bitter smell filled the store. I figured I'd just forgotten. My mind was tired. I poured a cup. It was perfect. Exactly how I make it. A little sugar, no cream. I drank the whole thing, shrugging it off as a weird lapse in memory. The next night, it was the radio. I kept it tuned to a classic rock station out of Bismarck just for the faint company. In the middle of a song, the volume dipped low, and another station bled through for just a second. Just a fragment of a sentence from a clear, calm voice. Is not empty. Then it was gone, and Aerosmith was back like nothing happened. I got up and adjusted the tuner, my fingers feeling cold. Probably just a glitch. Atmospheric interference. Nothing more. A little after 3 a.m., the bell on the door chimed. A woman walked in. She was maybe in her late 30s, dressed in jeans and a light windbreaker, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked normal, tired, like she'd been driving all night. She gave me a small, weary smile as she headed toward the coolers. Rough night? I asked. Standard night shift small talk. She paused and looked back at me. Her eyes were a pale, watery blue. You could say that, she said. Her voice was soft, almost melodic. Just need to wait a while. She grabbed a bottle of water and came to the counter. As I rang her up, I noticed her hands. They were perfectly clean, but there was a faint, dark line under her fingernails, like she'd been digging in damp soil. That'll be $1.89. She handed me exact change. Her fingers were ice cold. It's a long road, she said, not letting go of the coins for a second. Easy to get lost out here. You ever feel like you're just waiting for something to happen? I pulled my hand back, the coins clattering onto the counter. I guess, I mumbled. She picked up her water. Don't worry, Sam. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. It'll be over soon. She turned and left, not to a car, but walked right out into the dark fields behind the station. I ran to the window, but she was just gone, swallowed by the night. My heart was thumping. How did she know my name? My tag was tucked under my jacket collar. The next hour was the longest of my life. The silence felt heavy, pressurized. That's when I started hearing the scratching. It was a soft, persistent sound, like a branch rubbing against the roof or someone dragging a fingernail slowly along the outside wall. I'd go to the window and peer out, but there was never anything there. Just the endless, flat dark. I decided to distract myself by checking the security feeds on the little black and white monitor under the counter. I cycled through the 4 cameras: pump island, front door, cooler aisle, back stockroom. The stockroom camera was pointed straight down the narrow aisle between shelves, and at the very end of it, shrouded in shadow, was a human-shaped blur, standing perfectly still. I jerked back from the screen. My breath hitched. I grabbed the fire extinguisher next to the register, my hands slippery with sweat, and pushed open the stockroom door. The light was on. The aisle was empty. Nothing. Just shelves of motor oil and potato chips. The scratching had stopped. I let out a shaky laugh. A trick of the light, a smudge on the lens. I was losing it. I went back to the counter and looked at the security monitor again. I cycled back to the stockroom feed. She was still there. The blurry figure was at the end of the aisle. But now her head was tilted, and she was closer. Much closer. Clear enough now to see the pale oval of her face, the dark pits of her eyes looking straight into the camera, straight at me. Sound. The scratching sound returns, louder now, more insistent. It's clearly coming from the stockroom door. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't possible. I was just in there. The scratching started again, right on the other side of the stockroom door. Slow, deliberate. Then a voice, her voice, soft, melodic, and impossibly close, as if her lips were pressed against the thin wood of the door. Sam, she whispered, I'm still waiting. I fumbled for my phone. No service. The landline was dead. I was trapped. The door to the stockroom began to creak open, just an inch. A sliver of darkness yawned. I saw a single pale finger curl around the door's edge. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. I slammed my body against the front door, bursting out into the cold night air, and sprinted across the parking lot toward the highway. I didn't look back. I just ran, the gravel crunching under my feet until I saw the headlights of a semi-truck. I waved my arms frantically, and it screeched to a halt. The driver, a burly guy with a kind face, rolled down his window. "Whoa, buddy, you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." I was gasping, pointing back toward the station. There's a woman in there. She was in the stockroom. She was after me." The driver squinted at the brightly lit station. It looked peaceful, empty. "All right, calm down. Let's take a look. I've got my CB. We can call it in." He grabbed a tire iron from his cab, and together we walked back. My whole body was trembling. He pushed the front door open. The bell chimed. The store was empty, silent. The coffee maker was off. The radio was playing soft rock. "You sure, kid?" the driver asked, his voice doubtful. "The cameras," I insisted, my voice cracking. "Check the security cameras." The monitor under the counter was still on. I rewound the feed for the stockroom camera, my hands shaking so badly I could barely work the controls. The footage played back. It showed me walking into the stockroom. I looked around, confused. I stood there for a minute. Then I turned and faced the camera, and I started to laugh. I was just standing there on tape, laughing at nothing, for a long, long time. Then I walked out of frame. The aisle was empty for the rest of the night. There was no woman. There was no blurred figure. Just me, talking to myself, laughing at nothing. The police came. They were polite, but I saw the look they exchanged. They found nothing. No sign of forced entry. No evidence of anyone else. They suggested maybe the isolation was getting to me. Maybe I should take some time off. I never went back. I quit, moved to a bigger town, got a day job in a busy office with lots of people, but I can't shake it. The feeling that I was part of something I didn't understand, that maybe she wasn't there for me, but for the place itself, and that I was just keeping her company. I drive a different route to work now, but sometimes when I'm stopped at a red light or pumping gas, I'll see a woman with a ponytail and a windbreaker walking along the side of the road. She never looks at me. She just walks. And I have to wonder, was she ever really there? Or am I still the one who's waiting?